This is a presentation of BSRN, Box Studios Radio Network. The Power Play Post Show is on the air, covering minor league hockey since 2003, and now covering the Binghamton Black Bears with news, reactions, and in-depth interviews only heard here. And now from the Box Studios in Kirkwood, New York, here is your host of the Power Play Post Show, Bob Howard.
And hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Power Play Post Show. This is the show for December 22nd, 2024. This is season 14, episode number 29, and episode number 468 in the long-running podcast that is the Power Play Post Show. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Power Play Post Show. I am your host, Bob Howard. Thank you very much for joining us. This is the weekend wrap-up show as we talk a little bit about the last couple games for the Binghamton Black Bears. And what's very interesting about this is they played two different teams this weekend. And, of course, not every weekend do you get to see two different teams come in. There's a lot of times when a team will come in and play on Friday and play on Saturday. Of course, the Black Bears took care of business, as they always seem to do. And it doesn't seem like it matters whether or not the Black Bears have to worry about a suspension or an injury. They just continued to keep winning. And that's all they've done basically since Brant Sherwood has taken over for the Binghamton Black Bears. What's very interesting is, let's look at the standings first. Let's talk a little bit about the standings in my open monologue here, right? And when you look at the Black Bears, they're at the top, right? They've got 51 points right now through 22 games. They have a 7.73 winning percentage, okay? Now, they've got 14 wins. Actually, I'm sorry, I apologize. They have 18 wins, 3 losses, and 1 overtime loss, okay? And they've got 51 points. They've played 22 games. Now, let's just take a look at Baton Rouge for a second. Baton Rouge has actually played 2 more games than the Binghamton Black Bears, right? And right now they are 16-5-3. So they have a couple more regulation losses. They also have a couple more overtime losses. Their winning percentage is only .625, which is almost a 1.5 percentages. It's like a 150 hundredths less than the Binghamton Black Bears. And that's the number one team right now in the Continental Division. Columbus, who's played only 19 games, so they've played 5 less games than the Baton Rouge. Zydeco had 39 points, so their percentage is actually higher. It'll be very interesting to see if, for some reason, the league does not get every team to play 56 games and we go to a points percentage. It is going to be very interesting to see how that shakes up the Continental Division. In the Empire Division, it's not going to have that much of an impact, right? Maybe Danbury will leapfrog Port Huron. But I have to say, the Black Bears right now are clearly the best team in this league. Without a doubt, they've had suspensions. Their coach has been suspended for 4 games. Brant Sherwood, as everyone knows. They've had other suspensions. Gavin Yates, just different things that have gotten away. They've had injuries early on in the season where at the end of the season, we knew that everybody was kind of banged up a little bit last year, and people were playing through injuries. Connor Smith, you may not know, he was playing through an injury, right? I'm not going to tell you what the injury was, but he was playing through an injury. But this team seems to be, doing really good. They're the only team with 18 wins, okay, at this point. They've played 22 games, not even the most in the league. Even Monroe has played 1 more game than the Binghamton Black Bears, but they've only got 33 points. Athens has not played a lot of games yet, only 14 games. They've had 3 games postponed, so their winning percentage right now is .643. Technically, they have 10 wins, 2 losses, and 2 overtime losses. And they're ranked 6th right now in the Continental. But again, they've played 10 less games than Baton Rouge. Baton Rouge hasn't had any games postponed or nothing's kind of gotten in the way. They've done their stuff. And credit to Everett Thompson. He has coached them very well. and they've worked through some things. They're 6-2-2 in their last 10 games, right? But the Black Bears 8-2 in their last 10 games. And I think the team that could be a challenge for the Black Bears is the Carolina Thunderbirds. They once again are a good team. So is Columbus. Columbus is not as good as they were last year. And that's very important to take note of. But Binghamton, Carolina is definitely a team that I wouldn't say they've taken a step back. Yeah, they might be in third place right now in this division, but that's because Baton Rouge is better. But I want to make a point here. I think this league is better than it has been. Yeah, Mississippi and Danville don't have the wins. They don't have the points. They're not really competing as well. But every team in the Continental Division from Athens to Baton Rouge can beat any one of the teams in the Continental Division. I think Baton Rouge can beat Athens. Athens can beat Baton Rouge. That's first and six. And everybody in between can win games. And let's take a look at another one. You've got Blue Ridge, who's already made such an improvement from last year. They have 10 wins already through 19 games. Okay? That is such an improvement to where they were last year at this time. Monroe, right? Maybe not the start that they've wanted, that Parker Moscow wanted, right? But they are 10-8-5. They have 10 wins, right? So when you look up and down the Continental Division, you have a 16-game winner in Baton Rouge. You have 13 games in Columbus. You have 12 games in Carolina. You have 10 games in Monroe. You have 10 games in Blue Ridge. These are all wins, right? You have 10 wins right now in Athens. It doesn't mean that they're bad teams. What it means is that everybody has the ability to win games, and Biloxi is just behind right now, right? You know, Mississippi is just behind, unfortunately. I think the Empire Division probably isn't as competitive and is as good as maybe the Continental is right now. However, you can't sneeze. Binghamton's the best team in the league, period, right? But Watertown, Port Huron, these are all good teams. Watertown has 12 wins. Port Huron has 10 wins. 8 wins for Danbury. You have 8 wins for Motor City, who just lost to Binghamton on Saturday night. And then you have the Venom, who are going through all the craziness that they're going through. And you got to feel for MJ Merkel and that whole team. They've got 6 wins, right? 19. They were starting to really pick up steam when everything dropped out from underneath them. And basically someone pulled the ice out from underneath them. And that is not just a figurative type of speech. That is literal. They literally pulled the ice out from underneath them. And hopefully they'll have an announcement coming up soon. And then you have the Dashers, who are just not able to get the win. Like in the Friday night game against Binghamton, you could see that the first 23, 24 minutes, maybe the first 30 minutes of that game, they were in it. They were in it. Okay? But in the third period, they tied the game, right? So it was 1-1. So you can give them the first 40 minutes and say, hey, they were in it for the first 40 minutes. And then they turn around and they just can't finish. And I think that's something that can be corrected. Now, I'm hoping that this isn't killing hockey in Danville. It doesn't seem like there's being much put into it. There was a struggle just to get 4 guys signed because of some back office politics or whatever was happening, that didn't get certain things paid, which is seems to be a problem, unfortunately, in this league right now. So Danville and Mississippi are the exceptions. Every other team has the ability to win. This is the best the Fed has been in its existence. 15 years. And now they have a competitive league that you can be on 12 of the 14 teams and probably expect to go out there and win, which makes it a little bit easier for the head coaches like Matt Graham, even Justin Coachman, who's coming into Watertown, and they won on Saturday night, right? His First, I guess, second game as the head coach, and boom, he's already got a win, right? You take a look up and down, the coaches all can say in the Continental League, we have a chance to win. And you couldn't say that 2 or 3 years ago. I will say, right now, I wish that they didn't cancel the one Columbus game or changed it to Watertown. I would have really liked to see what Binghamton can do. They have 2 games still against Columbus, only 1 game against Carolina. So I'd like to see them be able to play those teams a little bit more than they are going to at this point, because I think it does challenge them a little bit. Listen, they added the extra game against Watertown. I think Coachman is going to figure that team out. Whatever craziness was going on there, I know some of the back office stuff that was going on. I was reached out by one of the players who I actually truly 100% respect, and he had some things to say. We all read what a couple of the players said online, and we know that some things have gone down in Watertown. And I hope that the league, as it moves forward, finds better ownership groups that can handle these situations where we don't hear about it, right? Because if it was handled correctly in Watertown, guess what would have happened? Nothing. We would have known about it. Fans wouldn't have known about it. Media wouldn't have known about it. It would have been kept in-house. It was not kept in-house, unfortunately. So I think the league is better overall. That's the point I wanted to make coming into this. A little bit later on, we're going to talk about attendance. I think that's something that we'll talk that's important as well. So after we get through the couple games and the 6 more questions with CJ Stubbs, we will definitely do that. All right, so the Power Play Post Show is on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Pocket Cast, YouTube, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Just search Power Play Post Show on whichever platform you listen to your podcast, and please subscribe. Please join the Power Play Post Show Facebook group. Every single week we keep adding 7, 8, 10, 15 more people. Well, if you're not a part of our Facebook group, please join the Power Play Post Show Facebook group. It's where I present all of my coverage of the Binghamton Black Bears. And check out binghamtonhockey.net for all your Binghamton hockey information and curiosity. And on this edition of the Power Play Post Show, 6 more questions with Binghamton Black Bears forward CJ Stubbs. Before I get into the Friday night game, I just want to remind everybody, if you didn't hear on last week's show, this upcoming week, we will have a conversation with the Don Father, Donald Oliveri. So I'm very excited about that. We'll even do some special holiday stuff with him, which will be very cool. So, and again, as we get closer to it, Merry Christmas to everybody. I hope everybody has a great holiday. The show will be dropping on Christmas Day. This is a Christmas Day holiday episode. We'll preview, obviously, the upcoming game that the Black Bears have. I guess it's in Danbury against the Hat Tricks on Saturday night because the Friday night game was postponed. So I will do that, and then we'll talk about some kind of fun holiday stuff, which is pretty cool. All right. The Binghamton Black Bears defeated the Dashers Hockey Club in a 6-goal third period, which included a feisty 3 fights at the 13:43 mark of the final period. The Black Bears got on the score sheet first with Cameron Clark's 13th goal of the season after receiving a pass from Kyle Steffen at the 14:45 mark of the first period, putting the Black Bears up 1-0. First period, from what I could see, seemed to be a little bit back and forth. The Black Bears, I still think, had the edge in the period itself. Obviously, they get the 1-0 lead. Neither team could score through the second period, but it only took 34 seconds into the third period for the Dashers to tie the game at 1 goal apiece off the stick of former Hat Tricks forward Bohdan Zinchenko. And if you don't think that Bohdan Zinchenko is not going to make an impact with the Dashers, he will. He was good for the Hat Tricks last year. He will be good for the Dashers. I kind of hope that coming up in the new year, the Dashers can pick up a little bit of steam and pick up some more wins. I think it'll be good for that fan base there. This is when the Black Bears then went on a 6-0 run in the third period, starting off with a Donald Oliveri goal at the 3:13 mark of the final period. Tyson Kirkby scored the next 2 goals of the period, just 5:31 into the third period on the power play, then 2 minutes and 15 seconds later to make it a 4-1 game. And at this point, you kind of already knew this game was probably over for the Dashers, unfortunately. However, the Black Bears were not done, as Kyle Steffen scored at the 11:44 mark, followed up by the Don Father scoring his second goal of the game at the 13:12 mark of the game. The Black Bears' seventh and final goal came off the stick of Zach Sirota. Good for him. Glad that all the hard work is paying off for him, who scored with 2:53 left to go in the game. The Black Bears earned their 17th win off of 7 goals, 4 fights, including Connor McNamara dropping the gloves against Parker Rutherford for his first professional goalie fight. So I want to bring up that game here on the Fed site. Actually, I could probably just go to binghamtonhockey.net and actually pull it up there. So if I go to this game, so of course it's a 7-1 game, right? So obviously the Black Bears get a great decisive victory. Don gets 2 goals. Tyson gets 2 goals. Austin Thompson had 3 assists in the game. It was obviously a really good game, right? But, what was interesting was, first of all, there was the fight in the first period, which was Josh Fletcher and Thomas Murphy. Thomas Murphy is a decent fighter. I will definitely give him props there. CJ Stubbs and Lester Brown got in a fight in the second period. And then we get into the third period where Trey Fisher gets in a fight. Thomas Murphy gets in his second fight of the game. Obviously, Connor McNamara gets in a fight. Jesse Anderson and Tyson Kirkby. Now, I don't think Tyson was in a great position. I saw a couple comments, that wasn't one of the best fights for Tyson. He was not in a great position to fight, and his opponent definitely had the advantage and the height on him. Just the way Tyson was turned and twisted, there was just no way, because it was in the middle of a scrum. Some people said, "Oh, well, Tyson didn't even fight." I mean, how he barely even threw a punch. He couldn't. I think he was defending more than anything else. And Tyson knows how to fight. He's done it before. Connor McNamara's fight. There was the early jab that Rutherford got on McNamara, and then I think when they went to go really hook up, and McNamara lost his footing and went down, and Parker Rutherford got a few shots in there. So kind of unfortunate in that sense. I don't think that the Black Bears really win a lot of their fights, right? Not decisively. They just don't. Even when CJ Stubbs had a great fight a couple weeks ago, I mean, it was a heavyweight bout. And I don't necessarily think that he had a decisive win, right? It was just a great fight and just landed a lot of punches. But does it really matter? They win games. And isn't that what we're all there to see, is them win games? Which I think is probably the most important thing. So what started that whole thing at the 13:43 mark is there was a cross-checking penalty that Jesse Anderson was getting, and then just everybody met up right behind the net of Connor McNamara. He turned and he looked at Parker, and Parker said, "Yeah, sure." They kind of waved, and boom, they were at it at center ice. That night as well saw a fight between the goalies in the Reading Royals and the Adirondack Thunder. So how often do you see that in the same weekend? You get 2 goalie fights in 2 different leagues, which I think is pretty cool. Of course, Nolan Egbert and Oscar Wahlgren had to come in and finish up the games. Both of the goaltenders, the starting goaltenders, got the leave in the crease penalty for 2 minutes. McNamara got, obviously they got the fighting, and then they got fighting after the original altercation. What I liked about what the referees did here, right? And yes, I'm going to say something good about the referees. They came together and they said that the 2 other fights that happened at the same time. By the way, there were 5 fights in that game. I kept saying 4, but there was 5 fights in that game. But the other 2 fights happened simultaneously, so you do not have to give the extra game misconduct to either one of those 2, or you don't have to pick 2 players, one on each team, and give them the extra game misconduct. They fought simultaneously, so I thought that was really well done by the the referees in that sense. So I thought that was pretty cool. So either way, good game for the Black Bears. Obviously, they get the win. They, again, just show they can turn on the switch. There's a switch that they can turn on. Their penalty kill has been excellent. They're still second in the league on the penalty kill. And even if the power play comes and goes, they haven't needed it. And they're getting a lot of now 5-on-5 goals, which I think is something that Coach Sherwood was really starting to look for, right? Either 4-on-4 or 5-on-5. Even strength. He wants to see those even strength goals, and they're starting to get it. Okay, so let's take a few seconds to take a break, and then we'll come back with 6 more questions with CJ Stubbs. We'll be right back right after this, right here on the Power Play Post Show.
You're listening to the Power Play Post Show. Here is another Power Play Post Show interview exclusive with Bob Howard.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Power Play Post Show. It is 6 more questions with CJ Stubbs. CJ, you ready for this?
I'm ready.
All right, perfect. All right, who is your greatest influence in your hockey playing career?
I would have to say probably my dad, just with his, just as an athlete. He didn't play hockey, but as an athlete and just all the support he's given me, I'd have to say my dad.
Yeah, it's family is so important, especially for hockey players, because they drive you to games. They talk to you. Sometimes they're your mental, trying to keep you in check and everything. So I think family is probably one of the biggest influences in almost in any hockey player.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, number 2. Name one pregame ritual that you have to do before every single game. And I know every single hockey player has rituals, things that they have to do to get ready. What's one of them for you?
I think it just would have to come down to how I put my gear on. If I put my gear on, a different way, it feels funny. So it's got to be left or right. If I put my skates on, it's my left skate first, then right. If I put my elbow pads on, it's left skate, then right, or left elbow, then right, and so on. So definitely has to be, left
in
or right,
order.
putting my gear on. Yep. Exactly.
When did do you remember when that started for you?
I don't know. Honestly, it's just, you practice every day, and you're putting the gear on, and I think one time I put my gear on, like my right skate on first, and it just felt super weird, and I was like, I got to take this skate off and put my left skate on first. So it was probably when I was like maybe first year in juniors, kind of hit me, and so I just kind of ran with it.
You know what's interesting is I'm right-handed, and I put everything on my left foot first. Always.
Yeah,
it's
same way.
It's just I have to do my left first, and then I do my right. I did that with skates and baseball cleats and sneakers. It doesn't matter. It's always the left one first. I don't know why.
Yep.
It sounds weird, but it's just the way it is. Okay, Number 3, vacation destination. Are you a beach guy, camping, or do you like to stay home?
I mean, obviously you can't go wrong with any of them, but I've spent, my fair share of time in Hawaii the last, 3 summers, but I think right now my destination would be like a ski trip somewhere in Colorado or Utah.
Nice. Very nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Outside of hockey, I think I know the answer to this. We've talked about this already, but outside of hockey, would it be the MLB, NBA, NFL, MLS, or PGA for you? What's the one sport that if you weren't like watching hockey or doing anything hockey related that you'd want to go watch?
That I'd want to go watch?
Well, or just watch on TV or whatever it might be.
I'm a huge basketball fan, so I would probably have to say the NBA, or if I was to go watch it in person, probably the PGA Tour.
Okay.
So
gotcha. Yeah, in person, the PGA Tour is kind of fun to follow, your favorite player around on the course.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. Now, for NBA, are you a Jazz fan?
I do like the Jazz. I'm not a diehard Jazz fan, which is crazy, but I do like the Jazz. I'm more of a people want to call me a bandwagoner. I'll take it, but I like the Golden State Warriors. I'm a huge Steph Curry fan, and
I like Steph Curry too. I like Steph Curry, like not even just as a basketball player. The other things that he does,
exactly.
He's just a lot of fun. One of my favorite shows on TV is the one where they do the miniature golf, and he's a big part of that. Oh, what the heck! Holy moly!
Yeah, holy moly!
Great show. He just comes into it at the end sometimes, but really, really fun stuff there. Okay, number 5. If you were picking a movie, would it be a comedy, a drama, a sci-fi, romantic, or a horror film?
Ooh, I like a good, drama, something that makes you depending on the mood, but maybe like a thriller. Or I like something that gets my brain thinking, and I have to kind of, see what's going on and try and maybe figure out what's going on. So,
gotcha. Do you have a favorite dramatic movie that you've watched?
Oh, I love so many movies, but one that kind of sticks to the top of my head is something like a Shutter Island, something like that.
Nice. I like that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. All right, number 6. This is the fun one. It's the only one we kept from last season. A zombie apocalypse has broken out, and yes, CJ, it's going to happen. And you're trapped in a hockey arena, okay? Who is the one person, dead or alive, fictional or non-fictional, that you would want to have in the arena with you? This is always the tough one compared, to...
Tough one. I'm trying to think of someone with weapons, or maybe...
It can be anybody.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe like Iron Man, if that's even possible, but I'd have to go with Iron Man.
All right. I mean, listen, who wouldn't want a Stark's, built suit, helping you out and, and taking care of it. CJ, again, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Good luck the rest of the season. Hopefully we'll get to have you back on soon, okay?
Yeah, anytime, Bob. Thank you.
Awesome. We'll be right back right after this, right here on the Power Play Post Show.
If you're a Binghamton hockey fan, then you need to check out binghamtonhockey.net for all your news, stats, information, the Binghamton Hockey Hall of Fame, top 10 lists, profiles, and so much more. That's binghamtonhockey.net. You're listening to the Power Play Post Show.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Power Play Post Show. It's great to have CJ on this past week and, today and, of course, last Thursday. If you haven't listened to that interview, you really need to go back and take a listen to it. Very interesting. Obviously, he's been playing pro hockey. I think this is his 5th season now, pro hockey. Might be his 6th season. And, I love getting those older guys on to talk to them. And it was great to hear last week about how he played with Jesse Anderson and his thoughts about Jesse, a very smart guy. And, he knows how smart and calculated and how much what Jesse does for the team. So pretty cool. Thanks to CJ Stubbs for coming on. We really appreciate it. Now on Saturday night, the Black Bears defeated the Motor City Rockers on Peanuts night in Binghamton by the score of 4-2. Before I get into the game, I just want to say I was surprised in the amounts that the Peanuts jerseys went. There was nothing over 1,000. I thought they would go for a little bit more than they did. So that was completely interesting to me. There were some ones that kind of went for a little bit less money than I thought they would. So that was interesting. But they were nice jerseys. I thought so. They were red and had Snoopy riding the Zamboni on the back part of the jersey, which I thought was very cool. But either way, scoring the first goal of the game for the Black Bears, Scott Ramakers notched his 5th goal of the season, 8:39 into the first period, putting the Black Bears on the board first. Matthias Tellstrom, probably the best name right now in the FPHL. I love that name. Matthias Tellstrom is an NHL quality name right there. Put the Rockers onto the scoreboard next at the 12:20 12:19 mark of the first, and this was an unassisted goal tying this game 1-goal apiece. I know when people look at it, went off of one of the Binghamton Black Bears defensemen. That's why it was unassisted. Matthias was the last person to touch the puck. Unfortunately, when you do see a defenseman, I agree with Gary Ryan 100% on this. When you see them kind of look up at the skies and like, oh my God, you know that unfortunately it's just a mistake happened. Can't blame it. It happens at every single league. I've seen it in the NHL, the AHL. This just happens. No big deal. No worries. Getting to his first goal of the season with an assist from Gavin Yates, Dan Weber broke the tie at 5:32 left to go into the second period. So the Black Bears, the last couple games, if you've noticed, it's been a tight game for the first 10, 15, maybe even up to 40 minutes. It's been tight. And then they've been kicking it into gear in the third period. I would rather have them play a great third period and win games than play great in the first and then struggle from the first to the third. It's just my mental capacity is I'd rather have them start off a little slow in the first, pick up steam a little bit in the second, and then have it in full gear in the third. That's just my style of what I like to see teams do. All right, so just 1:19 into the third period saw Gavin Yates score his 7th goal of the season, giving the Black Bears a 3-1 lead. The captain, Tyson Kirkby, then scored the Black Bears' 4th goal of the game, while the Black Bears were shorthanded as Don Oliveri sat in the penalty box for slashing. And, well, he probably just wanted some Twizzlers anyway. So that's where he was. I don't know if he ate any Twizzlers. I did watch both of these games while my family was at the house, and we were making cookies on Friday night. And then we were obviously doing our family Christmas all together type of thing on Saturday. I do want to say to Mr. Thrasher, who asked me a question, what kind of cookies, what's my favorite Christmas cookie? It doesn't matter. The cookies that I make with my family, they're all my favorites because I'm making them with my niece, who is just an amazing, amazing human being. I don't have children myself, so my niece and my nephew are kind of like pseudo kids to my wife and I. We love them to death. My brother and I are very close, and we're very close with his kids, and that's the way it's going to always be, just because. But we make chocolate chip, we make oatmeal raisin, we make oatmeal cookies, we make peanut butter cookies. My niece has an amazing ability to make these beautiful gingerbread cookies, and her boyfriend decorate them. They're all delicious. I love them all. But I will have to say that the chocolate drop cookies that we make, which my wife absolutely hates, but my brother and I and my mom, when she was alive, she made them, and we all ate them, and we loved them. Chocolate drop cookies are my favorite. It's just a great dry chocolate cookie, and it's just, it's great. So either way, Black Bears scored the 4th goal of the game while they were shorthanded. So that was the Black Bears' 6th shorthanded goal of the season. That is number 1 in the league. And again, I don't know if Don was eating Twizzlers, but I hope he was. All right. The Rockers did get a late game goal, their 2nd of the game from Cody Oakes. However, Connor McAnanama contained any more damage to earn his 30th career win for the Black Bears. So he had his 29th and his 30th career wins this past weekend. Again, he's number 1 in every single category for goaltenders in Black Bear history, except for saves. He hasn't saved as many as Owen Liskowitz, but that is coming in a few more games played for Owen, or for Connor. Fridays, by the way, I did say to Connor on Instagram through a personal message and everything, I won't tell you everything that he and I might talk about, but I will tell you this. I did kind of pick on him a little bit for not having his first pro fight while I was there so I could take some pictures of it, because that would have been a great shot. Usually I'm taking pictures during the fights and trying to get a kind of a really good action shot of but either way, Connor Connor said he kind of laughed. He knew I was just joking with him. But I was unfortunate that I was not there, but had a great time. Friday's upcoming game, December 27th, was postponed as the Hockey Club Venom do not have a home arena yet. However, reports are that they'll be announcing a new home arena soon. We believe it's in Poughkeepsie, and I think they're going to play a couple other home games in another location. But I don't know that 100%, but I know that the Venom have been promoting on their social medias that they are going to be announcing a new home arena soon. I believe it's the one in Poughkeepsie. I can't remember the exact name of the arena, but there's one there. I believe there's like 2,500 seats in there. So maybe in Poughkeepsie, they'll actually get some people to show up a little bit more. Maybe some Binghamton fans, Elmira fans, Danbury fans will all come together and try to show that team some support. Listen, at the end of the day, these guys could be out there making $50,000 or $60,000 playing or doing whatever profession. Think about Connor Smith. Connor Smith could have said no for the third time to Ford and played hockey again. He made the tough decision to go do that. Andrew Logar, he's making $40,000 or $50,000 doing what he's doing up in Buffalo. Okay? He could have sacrificed that. Guys sacrifice. So even those, Venom guys who used to be in Elmira, maybe there's a little bit of venom between the Black Bears and some of those players because it's just good fun in hockey. You kind of have to feel for them, right? You have to feel for the guys in Watertown that went through whatever they went through over the last couple weeks with, Penn's Jr., being released or let go. Whatever all that stuff happened, it's all been aired out. It's all been talked about. Unfortunately, it's been talked about. Either way, so hopefully they'll have that home arena soon for the Hockey Club Venom, but this upcoming December 27th game was postponed. What it does is it gives a couple of the players and the Branch Sherwood the ability to give the guys a well-needed break. I'm not sure how much practice will be done. I don't even know if I think probably everybody went home or everybody is heading home as much as they can. I'm not sure when they're coming back. I know Brooks, if you listen to this week, I hope you do. I hope you have a great time in Carolina. I know he was on a plane. He was flying down. He got home in time to see Carolina win 3-1, I believe it was. So he's happy to be down there with his family. Out of all the employees in Binghamton, he and Brant are the ones that are always kind of away from their family, right? Brant's wife is down in Philadelphia where they live, so sometimes Tucker's down there, sometimes Tucker's up here. Now, Brant has some family in the Binghamton, Southern Tier, Central New York area. However, Brooks does not. So Brooks is going home. He's going to get probably an extra day, maybe two, down there in Carolina. So glad for them. It's the holidays. I want them to be able to do that. So let's look at a little bit of the attendance in the FPHL this year, right? Because Binghamton for the first couple years were the number one team in the league for attendance, and that's good, right? We know that Binghamton having, I wouldn't say the biggest barn because they don't. I mean, there's a few other barns in this league that are bigger, right? The one in Biloxi for the Mississippi Seawolves, it's huge. It's freaking huge. We know that Monroe has a good-sized barn that can fit 5,500 people. Athens can fit 5,500 people. But Columbus and Carolina, smaller barns. Danbury, obviously a smaller barn. I'd love to see what Danbury could do if they had a real arena. I don't want to say a real arena, but more of a non-community ring, but more of a playing in a professional, a bigger arena, right? Give them a 4,000-seat arena or a 4,500-seat arena like Binghamton. How many fans can they put in there? Can they sell something like that out? I don't know. Is there enough people in that part of Connecticut that you could get on board if you had that kind of an arena? It would be interesting to see, right? Blue Ridge, the city of Wytheville, obviously expanded that arena from, I think it was like 1,000 to up to 3,500, right? Can they grow? Either way, Monroe right now is number 1 through 10 games played, 45-19. I think that's a phenomenal start for Monroe. I think that means Monroe has a good footing down there in Louisiana, and that's great. And, Baton Rouge is 6th in the league with 29-26, and having those two cities prove that single-A hockey, they can make it work and they can get 3,000 plus. That's great. I think that really does mean that Louisiana with Baton Rouge and Monroe are in a good spot. Now, Athens, Georgia finally has played Athens Rock Lobsters have finally played 2 home games, right? 42.78 is their average, right? Puts them ahead of Binghamton, which puts Binghamton 3rd with 4,018. However, I want to talk about this for a second because this is very important. The Athens Rock Lobsters sold out their first game 5,500. Their second home game, which was a Saturday night, and I realize college football is still going on down in Georgia. My brother's a Georgia Bulldogs fan, and he loves his Bulldogs. They only got 3,056. I hope that comes up a little bit, right? But it's a stark contrast between their first game and then their second game, right? That's a little bit worrisome. Now, they've had 3 home games postponed because, unfortunately, when you're building a brand new arena, and yes, these guys are playing in a brand new spanking arena. This is not the AHL, and yet this team, it came into this league with a brand new arena. And it took a little bit of time for them to get through all the contracts and getting all the safety inspections and the certificates that they need to let people in there. But it's interesting that they went down 1,500 fans from game 1 to game 2, and it was on a Saturday. But we'll see what happens over the next few weeks as they have some more home games. Can they get that number to improve? And we all know hockey numbers always go up after New Year's. Okay, so let's see if that one goes up. I still expect Athens to probably be ahead of Binghamton when it's all said and done, by at least a couple hundred fans on average, right? I think Binghamton's going to do what they want to do or do what they need to do. They'll probably get 3 or 4 more sellouts, and which is 48.93 for them, and they'll still finish in 3rd place, and they'll have 4,000 plus. And I really do think that we're going to have 3 teams with 4,000 plus, which means 3 teams will hit over 100,000 fans. It would be nice to see Baton Rouge or Biloxi be able to do that, but Baton Rouge, according to Gary Ryan, when he's looked at their schedule, some really awful dates. Not enough good Friday, Saturday dates. They've played some Wednesdays and Tuesdays and, some of the garbage dates that are very hard to sell tickets on. So I think Danbury is about where they are. Wytheville has obviously come up a little bit. They just had a game this past Saturday where they had over 2,000 fans. I think it was 2,079 fans. So phenomenal for Blue Ridge to be able to do that. Port Huron's about their average. Same thing with Motor City. They're about their average as well. Again, I think it's very interesting. Now, lastly, before I let you go, I'm a part of the Minor Pro Hockey Facebook group's picks for the week, right? We rank them from basically the number 1 team down to the Danville Dashers or the Dashers Hockey Club. I just want to let everyone know my number 1 pick this week has not changed for the past few weeks. It's the Binghamton Black Bears. Can still consider them the number 1 team. I think then after that, it's a toss-up between Baton Rouge, Columbus, and Carolina. Watertown is right there. I think they're going to rebound with Justin Coachman in there. And from 9th to really 3. So from Port Huron down to Hudson Valley, who I do have number 3. Now, if MJ Merkel's listening to this episode, I want to let him know I've only got him 3rd not because of much of what the team has done, but more of everything that's been around you guys hasn't allowed you guys to play your best hockey. I think they can play better hockey than that. And I think they could easily go from 3rd to 7th or 8th. I'm sorry, not 3rd, but I have them ranked with 3 points. That's how we do the ranking system. But 3rd from last, I think they could easily get themselves up to the 7th or the 6th or the 5th spot in the rankings very quickly with just a couple weekends of really good hockey and some wins. The problem is their schedule is so inconsistent right now, very difficult. They are practicing 3 times in Poughkeepsie each week, which is good, but I think they need to get in a groove. It's very hard for a team, if you're only playing 1 game a week, to be able to get into a good groove. Either way, so those are my picks. I want to thank everybody for listening, which is very important. One last thing. Donald Oliveri, again, this upcoming week, we're going to be recording on Monday evening for a Wednesday Christmas Day show, which is very exciting. So stay tuned for that. That'll be a lot of fun. The Power Play Post Show is on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Cast, YouTube, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Just search Power Play Post Show on whichever platform you listen to your podcast, and please subscribe. Please join the Power Play Post Show Facebook group. Just go to Facebook and search Power Play Post Show. Check out BinghamtonHockey.net for all your Binghamton hockey information and curiosity. Thank you to Rob Lapolis, our MC, John Petitucci, our musical director, as well from the Binghamton Black Bears, forward CJ Stubbs for answering 6 more questions. I am Bob Howard. Thank you very much for listening. Again, Merry Christmas. Happy New Year to everybody. Happy Kwanzaa. If you celebrated Hanukkah just a couple weeks ago, happy Hanukkah to you as well. And thank you very much for listening. And I'll talk to you next time with Donald Oliveri right here on the Power Play Post Show.
Thanks for listening to this edition of the Power Play Post Show. Be sure to tune in next week to the Box Studios Radio Network for all the latest Black Bears news and interviews from around minor league hockey. The Power Play Post Show would like to thank John Patitucci for all the music you hear on the show. You've been listening to the Power Play Post Show.